guys, and welcome back to the Stories of Freedom podcast. Chris Weddington here.
Kayla Creasy.
And then we have Tate Trapp. Go ahead.
How's it going, guys?
So I'm sure a lot of you guys probably know who Tate went to the church, for about a year now? Is that right? Or am I wrong on that?
It's been a year. We came here in May of 2017, so a little over a year.
Cool.
It's been awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure you guys see him around greeting you as you come in and whatnot. So, but yeah, before we get into Tate's story, I just wanted to give a couple of updates since the last episode. For those of you that are on our Facebook page, we actually did a test promotion on there to see how that went to get more listeners around the country or world or whatever, and just did a limited budget and a limited area, like vicinity, and it worked out really well. I guess a little better than I thought it would.
Yeah, it worked great.
Yeah, I think we had like 18 likes on the Facebook page and only about 18 listeners on the podcast as well, mostly people here at the church, and just in those 3 days, we went up to 115 likes on the Facebook page, and our listeners went way up. So
moving on up.
Yeah. So welcome to all the new listeners that we have, and if you guys like it, make sure you're sharing this with people so they can hear these testimonies. One thing that happened that was really cool in that I had, and I don't know if you guys saw this on the Facebook page, it shows how many people see it, and there wasn't that many people that saw it. I don't know why Facebook picks and chooses what people see so much, but we had somebody like the Facebook page. Her name's Amelia, and she had a testimony or a book that she wrote about her testimony, and I think it got published about 2 years ago. But she posted a link to it, and I went to the link. It was just an Amazon link to her book, and I purchased the digital download, and I read it, and it was incredible. I don't read. There's very few books I have read. Usually I do audiobooks if I'm going to do a book.
Me too, man.
I could not put that book down. It was so good.
I just got it. I bought the paperback, and I just got it. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm excited to start reading it.
Yeah. You're going to love it. So I'm trying to get her on the podcast. I don't know if that's going to happen or when that's going to happen, but I'm going to try really hard to get her on. So if you're listening, Amelia, please send us respond to the message or send me an email, whatever. Stories of Freedom podcast @gmail.com. If you want to get on the podcast, we can do it over the phone like we did with Stacy.
Yeah.
And we know that works. And I know, either way, whether we have her on or not, you guys should go buy her book, either the book or the download, and read it. It was really good. So, and really powerful.
Awesome.
So with that being said, one more thing. I know, I almost forgot that. I almost just went right into it. So
Tate, you will have to wait a minute.
Sorry.
Can do.
I think we're kind of, ice the kicker in football. We're icing Tate over here. He's getting nervous, and we keep teasing him like he's going to get to go.
Build my faith here.
Yeah. So Kayla actually designed some shirts for us. She's got an Etsy shop.
Yeah. It's a small little Etsy store.
So because of the success, because of the success of the promotion that we did for just those few days, we decided to create like a fundraiser for it.
Yeah.
All the money will go to basically creating more Facebook ads, and broaden those ads so that we can get people all over, not just California and Nevada, to hear the podcast and see the Facebook page. So we haven't really set a price or put them up just yet. We'll have more information this week on that. I'll put pictures on there today, though, on the Facebook page so you can see them. I'm actually wearing one right now. So they just
great, by the way, you should definitely go buy one.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll have men's cuts and women's cuts, and then I'll make a collage of all the different color options and get it posted and figure out pricing and
decals too, right?
I can make some. Justin calls them stickers.
Stickers.
They are not stickers.
Stickers.
They are decals.
Decals.
So I'm definitely putting one of those on both of my vehicles. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
We'll have those up later this week. We'll let you know on the Facebook page if you just follow that, and it'll probably just link to Kayla's Etsy page.
Yeah.
Check out our other stuff too while you're there. She's got some pretty cool stuff there.
Thanks for that plug.
There we go.
So free plug. So anyway, I guess that's pretty much it for the announcements and the updates and whatnot. So go ahead. I guess, Tate, whenever you're ready.
Take it away, Tate.
Get started.
We're going to take a minute pause just for all the listeners. I'm just kidding. We're not
I was like, that's boring. That's boring podcast or radio. Dead air is not good. So
just kidding. No, we're not gonna do that. All right. So yeah,
I'd edit it out if you did. So it's
What
no
was
big
that?
deal. I would just edit that silence out if you did.
How dare you?
How
I
dare
requested
you?
it. All right. So anyway, all right. So we'll start off with my. Clearly, we're going to be going over my testimony. So, so I grew up in South Dakota. So that's where me and my wife met. That's where we're from. And before me meeting my wife, I didn't really walk with the Lord. I didn't really have a relationship with the Lord. I had grown up in church. Had been baptized through Catholicism. Very early on in my life, and there really wasn't much of an interaction or relationship with God or Jesus or anything before that. It was just more of a, okay, we're going to church, this is boring, I don't want to be here, okay, I want to go do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But so in high school, I started stalking my wife, and when I say stalking, I know that sounds really bad. But I would watch her because I was too scared to say anything to her because she's beautiful. And
She is really pretty. I'll test to that. I adore your wife. Absolutely adore her.
well, thank you. So anyway, I was scared to talk to her, and I finally got the guts to go up and talk to her, and we started hanging out. And the only way that I was going to be able to date her is if I went to church. And this is a church that I previously had been to and been a part of through actually a different relationship earlier in my high school life. And so going there was kind of weird, again, because I didn't really leave on a good note with, my lifestyle choices and things like that I had previously been doing. But anyway, I went there, and, it was nothing but love. I didn't feel any, like I was ostracized out or anything like that. And in me going there, I started to develop, like, hey, I feel like this is something that I need in my life. This is something that I want to grow in. And, over the course of time, over a few months, I rededicated my life to Christ there. And then in me doing that, from that point, me and Michaela, we started dating. And then after we graduated high school, I immediately left for boot camp for the Marine Corps. And in that process, I didn't really walk. Once again, I kind of just fell back into the normal, okay, I'm a Christian. I call myself a Christian, but, maybe my life doesn't really reveal that.
Right.
My lifestyle doesn't show that I'm a Christian. It's not much different from the world. So I went through boot camp, went through my MOS school, and then and then me and Michaela got married, and she moved out to California with me, and that's where we were stationed for my first duty station. And we started going to church there at Free Chapel, Orange County. Shout out to Jensen Franklin. They got an awesome church.
Free
going
plugs
there.
all over the place
I
today.
know. It's just free plug
So
day.
if you're ever down in OC, the good old OC in California, go ahead, check them out. They're awesome. But yeah, it was really good there. Started helping out in the children's ministry there, and it was a good time. But yet I still wasn't at that, totally dedicated to Christ thing. And then so I actually deployed in October 2015 to May or April of 2017, or 16, excuse me. So that was roughly 6-7 months deployed. I was in Kuwait and Iraq, and during that time, I started listening to actually podcasts and watching some YouTube videos of a gentleman named Dan Moeller. Give a shout out to him as well. But this man, I hadn't, up until that point in my life, I never really, I guess, I don't know, there was just something different about this man. He was so genuine, so pure, and I had such a heart for Christ. And I was like, God, if this is what being a Christian truly is, and this is what it's supposed to look like, I want this. And from that point, I just kept listening to those podcasts and watching those videos when I had the chance. And it really started to grow on me and change my heart. And I've always had a really big heart, and it's always been full of compassion. Even before my walk with Christ, I'd always been wanting to help or felt bad for people who I saw were in need and things like that. And I can only attribute that to Christ, really, even before I even really truly accepted him. So since that deployment, it has been a very amazing growing process and transformation of my life. And there are things where I'm at now is like so extraordinary and awesome. Just the confidence in myself and the boldness I have from being a believer and just following Christ and trusting in him has totally just radicalized my life. And I even pray for that. I even pray, that God would make me a radicalized, extremist for Christ, in such a loving way. Because obviously you can be extremist and, do things without a heart of love, and that's not what this walk is about.
Like Todd White without dreadlocks.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And what I think I always got caught up to is I always thought, my testimony. So that was the basics of my testimony. And what I've always been caught up in is like I always thought a testimony was, how you got brought to God, but then it ended there, And I thought, okay, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is how God brought you or myself to Christ, and then that's it. But really what I've realized is it's not about initial testimony. It's about the testimony in your walk with Christ and how he keeps revealing himself and what you're doing in the body of Christ as a Christian. And I think that's the most powerful thing. And it's really cool to see, I've been, I've gotten to the point of faith where, I'm going out and praying for people and things like that. And, I've seen, just people start crying because they're like, I just felt the presence of God. And I'm like, it's because he loves you so much, you know what I mean? And it's just, those are the testimonies that I love. And I just want to continue to develop those testimonies in my life so that I can share that with other people. To share things like that, because I feel like if I'm not developing, this isn't in my own strength, but if there's not more testimonies in my walk as a Christian, then what am I doing? Am I not going against the grain, or am I going with the grain?
Right.
Yeah.
And what I mean with that is, am I going with the world, or am I, stepping into what God's calling me to do? And that's what I want to keep doing, is just continue to press into that. What do you want, God? Where do you want me? And I want to, just push the boundaries, put me up against the wall, really test my faith, because that's where you're going to see tremendous breakthrough and tremendous, miracles and signs and things like that. And I really want to see heaven just fall upon my life more and more, and not only my life, but me and my wife's life as well. And then through that, just impacts people around us. You know what I mean? And that's my heart right now, and that's where I'm growing. And yeah, that's my testimony in a nutshell. And like I said, it's not much. I was just, I was a normal kid, just growing up in high school, trying to figure out who he was. And, I didn't really do anything that bad, but the testimony is not about how bad you were before and where you're at now. And I feel like that's what I thought about a testimony before, people would be like, yeah, I was a drug addict, maybe, I abused my family, things like that. And I was like, and then people are like, man, I wish I had your testimony. No, start walking with Christ and he'll develop more and more in your testimony. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've heard people say that, well, I don't have any crazy dramatic stories or anything like that. And it's that's not what it's about, because Satan still tries to get you in different ways.
Yeah.
It's just about you overcoming them and finding Christ through them. And like you were saying, you were living in the world before. Can you remember certain instances where you knew God was with you or had already gone before you, but you still chose the world, but okay, I guess that didn't really make sense. Can you recall a time in your life where you knew he was there, but you were still living in the world? Or did you just
before I became a Christian?
Yeah. Or did you just feel like you just purposefully chose world over him?
I think it's just honestly, I just didn't know what was out there. I was trying to find myself. I didn't, at one point I considered myself an atheist, and I didn't really know. I think I believed there was a God. Really, I did, but I just didn't, I didn't know it was a relationship. I didn't know it was a walk. It was something that totally transforms your life. And so I can't really think of an exact story or to answer your question, but I just didn't know what I was looking for, so I didn't really relate it to God.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of your testimony because there's a lot of people that can relate to that.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you said, Kayla, so many people are like, I've had people come to me and say, I'd love to share my testimony, but I really don't know what it is. I just kind of boring life, and I accepted Christ. And it's like, that's fine. I mean, like, because there's so many people out there that are living in the world and apart from God, not bad people, not doing bad things, don't have a crazy background to say, but they're living apart from God. They're feeling that void and that emptiness. They know somewhere that there's something else, or they say they believe, but they don't really walk that. And then once they really truly understand who God is and they give their life to Christ, and it's like, oh, this is what I've been missing my whole life.
Yeah.
So I mean, just the simplicity of it is powerful in itself. There's a lot of people like that.
Yeah, and that kind of goes off exactly what I ended with is that your testimony continues, and there's more to be added to it. So don't think just because you have that simple testimony initially doesn't mean you're going to have an extravagant one through your walk throughout the rest of your life.
Right. And, Bill actually talks about that. Bill McRae, we had him on, two episodes ago, I think. He talks about that with the testimony being more after. And I thought it was funny. I meant to say it when he was on, but I completely forgot. It was interesting to me how his testimony, the first part of it was him after he became a Christian. He was talking more about his life.
Awesome.
Since then, he didn't really even talk about becoming a Christian until Kayla brought it up like 45 minutes in. And she's like, so what happened?
Give us a little bit of your history, Bill.
And then he did. And it was like, that was definitely his style. And I thought it was, I really enjoyed his whole testimony and doing it that way.
That they just got blown away by Bill's and was just completely touched.
So so it's good that you say that.
Cool.
And even with my testimony, I've got the two parts that I shared, and I think the second part that I had of my testimony, that was more of an eye awakening experience for me, I guess, and more of, I don't want to say more powerful, but it was more, I don't know, I'd been a Christian for a long time, and and like you said, it continues. So I mean, your story of freedom or your testimony can come later on after you're already a Christian, and God does something big in your life to help you reveal Himself to you. Or once you go, oh, I haven't surrendered this to God yet, I should probably do that. And then the things that God does for you after that, it's pretty incredible.
And I think like when you read the story of like the parable of the lost sheep, like in between when the sheep leaves, strays away, and Jesus finds you, like that's your worldly testimony. Like in between when He searches for the sheep and finds the sheep, that's your worldly testimony. But when He gets you back, I mean, the sheep still has to learn how to stay and not wander off again and be obedient and stuff. So it's like, so that's your after Christ testimony is after He finds the sheep. And He brings you back to the corral, or I don't know, whatever sheep get put back into their pen. I don't know. But I mean, so I guess that's a good way to look at it. Like once He finds you, brings you back, you still have to stay and be obedient and listen to your shepherd and do all that stuff. Yeah.
I have to say too, it's not related to the whole testimony thing, but I think it's funny that you refer to yourself as her stalker, because I got called that too. So Renee, when I started dating her, she was working at In-N-Out Burger, and I worked probably about 15 minutes from there, but I got an hour for lunch. So I would go like every day for lunch. That's where I would go. And then she would work till, they worked till like 2 a.m, cleaning all that stuff.
God.
And I would go hang out like there. And then when they'd kick me out, I'd go sit in the car and wait for her to get off. And it was like, everybody called me her stalker. So it was funny that you said that, because I can relate. Yeah, exactly.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
See, it's okay to be a stalker, guys.
Yeah. I mean, as long as she's okay with it too, because then it gets creepy if not. So
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Justin didn't even waste time stalking. He was like, "Hey, want to get married? Okay."
It's different ways.
Didn't waste any time. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So, thank you for your service. I didn't say that. So I just
thank
want to
you.
say thank you for your service.
Yeah, well, no problem. But yeah, so just kind of give like an after. I don't feel like I really did that. So, like in me throughout my walk, after being with Christ, I've had it's been crazy how much God has surrounded me by like-minded men and women, even though I'm in the service, because it's a really really lost place. And just being obedient, like starting a Bible study. I recently started a Bible study on the training center, and I have 5 to 6 individuals every Wednesday night who show up to this. And
That's
God,
awesome.
when you just obey God, He's gonna move. And don't think too much about it, because that's what I did for 2 months. When He told me to start a Bible study, I thought about it for 2 months. Sometimes you got to be like David, and you just got to run straight into the battle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just do it, and God's going to take care of it all. And so, if anything, that's just one of my testimonies.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Do you feel like you faced a lot of persecution of sorts being in the Marine Corps and being open about your faith? Do you face a lot of persecution from other people?
Honestly, I haven't run into
No.
it that much.
Yeah.
No, a lot of the leadership too that I've been surrounded with since I've been in, and since I've been more expressive about my faith.
Yeah.
I haven't had any troubles with anyone. In fact, I find a lot more Christians who are like, I think Todd White says this, 007 Christians. Like you would have never guessed that they were Christians, but till you bring it up, they're like, yeah, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't had any issues with that.
Well, praise
anything
God
like
for that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not coming, but praise God for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been so cool, just the journey. I've been surrounded with so many trials since becoming a Christian and walking many things, and God has just given me such a supernatural, like miraculous peace about things, even like things with my family members who recently tried to commit suicide. Like it's just like such a peace in my life, like because I know it's not in my hands and it's in His, and it's just so cool. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And that's such a freedom.
Yeah.
To just say, okay, like it's yours, God, it's yours. I have absolutely nothing to do with it, and just to have that freedom, and like you said, that overwhelming abundance of peace. It's just like you can't explain it to other people. It just only happens when you fully are surrendered to Christ, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
All right.
That's all I got.
That was good. Yeah.
Simple, to the point.
I like it.
Love Jesus.
Yeah.
Be obedient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Well,
All
I
right.
don't know. I think that's it then, huh?
That's all I got.
It's probably the shortest one we've had in a while.
think so.
But I like it. It was
Go enjoy your Sunday now.
all right, guys. Well, then I guess we'll have somebody else on in a couple weeks.
And look out for our shirts.
Yeah, look out for the shirts. Also on the Facebook page, just like Amelia did with her book and everything. If you guys have something like that you want to share, whether it's a blog, a book, a YouTube channel, whatever. If it's something related to this, go ahead and share it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I want it to be a community thing there. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, look out this week for the more information on those shirts, and I guess just have a blessed week then.
Have a good week,
Thanks for
guys.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.